What you see is not always what you get. There are reversals, there are wicked reversals, and then there's super extra wicked reversals. That's what we saw yesterday in Microsoft. More bad earnings from Pinterest, but some good earnings, and this market is ripping now at major resistance. What do you do? We'll cover those earnings and more. Special guests at 8:35. Co-CEO of a new stock, Ninja in Pajamas, NIPG. It's a Wednesday. Get your seatbelt on because this is going to be a wild pre-market prep.
Welcome to Benzinga's pre-market prep.
This is a volatile puppy here.
It's all about execution styles and strategies.
Okay, team, we're up 52 and a half handles, 55.25, right at major resistance. As you can see the chart, quad top, quintuplet top, or we just blasted through. Forgot about the Fed today as well. TLT up marginally, nearing those mid-July highs. You have crude, nice rebound up 265 at 77.38. Gold in the green by 12 bucks, 24.64. Silver moving in on 29. That's up 30 cents at 28.82. And Bitcoin up a couple $100 at 66,600. Let's bring in Triple D. Triple D is still foaming at the mouth from yesterday's action,
I
Dennis.
don't know
We
if you
had,
call it that.
the complete same reaction to what the market did yesterday.
Yeah. AB, come on in here too. We're going to be getting these earnings reports. We're going to be jumping in. But, the title of the show, The Wicked Reversal, is exactly what we saw last night. We know we were very weak on the day in tech, weak going into the close on tech. And then Microsoft hit us right at 4 o'clock with a stomach punch. Knocked Microsoft down 30 points and the rest of the market with it. S&Ps were down 40 handles. The Qs were getting hammered. Nvidia was down. It was just an absolute disaster across the board. And then we just slowly started bouncing. And then to the rescue, Lisa Su, AMD, comes out with not even a great report, but good enough. It was good enough. And then we started bouncing, and then the Microsoft guidance on the call was okay, and then they started buying tech stocks everywhere, and all of a sudden this day, which was going to be an epic disaster, is awesome again for the bulls. So unbelievable reversal, one of the most wicked reversals I've seen on an earnings day ever. To be down 40 handles in the S&P and now going to be up 40 handles, all because I think the bar was just low enough for a lot of these companies.
Yeah,
Which
so
is crazy to say.
Microsoft, when they reported, came out right after the market closed at around 4:02 p.m.,
It's right
2 minutes
away.
after the close. And they actually beat on both EPS and sales. So $2.95 on the EPS, $2.95 beat the $2.92 estimate. Sales came in at $64.7 billion, beat the $64.35 billion. But the cloud growth segment, which has been the big driver for Microsoft throughout the past decade or so, the Azure, came in below analyst expectations there. And then, as you said, Dennis, when they actually started the call about an hour later, they gave some more numbers and the market was like, oh, this isn't as bad as we thought. I mean, if you look at it, the segment still grew 29%. But the analyst expectations were for that growth to be 31%. So either way, it was still like solid, but it wasn't as good as people were hoping for. But Microsoft dipped initially on the numbers, started coming back a little bit, got as low as, like, I'm seeing all the way down
sub
to
390,
yeah.
390, pre-market low 389.20, and was doing the closing print with Christian Fromhertz, and and I like to give the close in the S&Ps, and I'm like, wait, and then I looked, and I have, of course, Microsoft on my front screen, went right down to last week's low. If you were bidding at last week's low, you missed it by 2 ticks.
On the S&Ps.
Yeah,
You said Microsoft, but S&Ps.
Oh, no, Microsoft exceeded it. I'm just going to do a quick technical on this, and Dennis, I'll let you finish up with your fundamental. Yeah, said this with Christian. There was 3 out of the last 4 lows at 417. I said if it takes out 417, look out below. I didn't think you'd be that much below, but that's all I can give you right now. Is 417 is 3-star resistance, former support, old resistance. That's it. We'll see where we back and fill. Your rebound high has been just under 415.
Interesting enough where Microsoft bounced technical levels, though, Joel. You talked about it, breaching the recent lows. But if we go back into April, multiple lows, 388, 389. So it bounced right around where you think it should bounce, at least from a technical perspective. And so that was the initial. It held those levels. And then it sat there for quite a while, even with the AMD bouncing and Nvidia then was bouncing. Like what started really the rally was definitely AMD, because we were in shambles, and then AMD came out a few minutes later, and we should go to that report here too, AB. It was decent. It wasn't like, but it was decent enough is the whole thing, because once Microsoft set the bar lower, and again, Microsoft didn't even miss, but it was like just enough, that they were worried about, obviously, Azure, worried about a number of things, which, on the guidance call kind of helped. But, once the market tanked, it's like, oh my gosh, here we go again. And AMD came out. I was like, oh, it's not that bad. It's pretty good, actually. And we know AMD was very weak going into the report. We talked about this on the show yesterday. And I said, if AMD says anything okay, it likely bounces, because we're down like 35% in 2 weeks going into the print. I mean, the bar was very, very low. Give us those details, AB.
Yeah, so AMD reported EPS of 69 cents, beat the 8-cent estimate. Sales came in at $5.83 billion, beat the $5.72 billion estimate. What the big thing here was that the data center revenue was up 115% year over year. The demand for AI chips, Lisa Su, was very strong. They actually sold more AI chips in the quarter than they had anticipated. And, the analysts are looking for AMD to try to take some market share from Nvidia here, which is a tough battle. Obviously, we know how, Nvidia's chips are just seen as the standard in the industry, but AMD probably number 2 here. And like you said, I mean, AMD's report was decent. There were some good parts to take out of it. If you're a bull, if you were bearish on AMD, there was, maybe it didn't necessarily blow it out of the water. I mean, you look at that EPS beat, it was just by a cent.
Yeah.
Sales slightly beat as well. So again, it was a good enough report with the lower bar. But if you're looking at that year over year growth and like data center sales up over 100%, I think there are some positives to take away from it.
I think so. And then you look at, obviously, with AMD bouncing, it's going to bounce Nvidia. And this is what really started the market rally. So it's not like AMD is a huge piece of the market, but Nvidia is. And when Nvidia starts bouncing, we saw Nvidia kiss down to 100. Congratulations to my buddy Jeff, who actually bought it after hours, right almost on the low tick. He sent me the screenshot. That took some guts, though, bouncing off the 100. But I mean, it was a technical level. Like, and it doesn't even show up on your chart there, Joel, but it did hit the 100 handle. It didn't go under 100. Do you have the low? What was the actual low?
100.01.
I gotta look at what my buddy. I'm looking at my buddy Jeff.
Because you talk about the whole numbers holding here. Yep, 10001.
My buddy Jeff got 10013 in the after hours. He sent it to me. He's like, I never do this, but he's like, check this. Nice trade, Jeff. Nice pick up there. I think he's already flipped out of it. I think a lot of people already flipped out of it. Also, yeah. Just such a bounce. I mean, so you got a 10-point bounce here.
You also
basically
had
10% bounce from the low. I mean, on Nvidia, who didn't even say anything. Like, that's impressive in itself. $100 to 110. That's a 10% bounce off from the low. And we haven't even had a regular session minute yet. This is all from after hours to pre-market, and they didn't even say anything. That is impressive. What are you going to say, AB?
I was going to say we also had we had Morgan Stanley come out and reiterate Nvidia as a top pick. I believe that was that this morning, also potentially helping Nvidia out pre-market.
Moving it further up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, coming in and just saying like down here. I mean, look, all these chip names, whether you're looking at AMD, Nvidia, SMCI, I mean, they're all down like 20% from their highs in a month. And then, it feels like it's like, oh my God, like the bubble burst or whatever. And then you look at it and they're still up, more than 20% year to date. So it's really just like a pullback that I think a lot of investors would consider a healthy pullback, even though if, again, you were buying the tops like a month or in a month, 6 weeks ago, a lot of these things have gotten crushed. I mean, Dell too, you look at Dell, like a lot of these things have just had some of the froth, I think, taken out. And that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh my God, the story is over, but maybe it's a chance to get some of these companies at not even necessarily reasonable valuations, but more reasonable than what they were at a few weeks ago.
But that's what needed to happen. We needed to lose the froth. We needed to have the speculative bubble burst in a lot of these names. And it has, because the story here, folks, on a lot of these names is real. That's why I didn't eliminate all these stocks out of my long-term portfolio. Obviously, I wish I would have sold all the Nvidia, but I kept a small piece, but we played that one perfectly. I don't usually get them that perfect, but we had started buying at $40 and $50 and $60, and I started unloading at 91.10, and I even got off some at 133. So, I mean, we played it really well. But the reason I was selling, a month ago, and the reason I said Nvidia, when I said it a couple days after the June reversal at 140, I said, I think the high for the year might be in. I tweeted it, go back and look, is because there was so much froth. It was just so overdone. It wasn't because the company, it wasn't because the company isn't doing really well. It wasn't because I think fundamentals are going to turn south here and this is all going down and this was all just a big bubble that wasn't justified. It was just so much froth. Companies don't go from 1 trillion to 3 trillion in a straight line, and that's what it basically did. So now you've got the healthy pullback, and you did get the healthy pullback. And you know what? As much as I thought $140 is probably the high for the year, you may have just saw the low point now for the second half with $100. So maybe that's your range, 100 to 140 here, because I don't think the story is over. I think it's far from over. To your point too, AB, you've said it before. We're in the early innings here in AI. So the story is not over, but it needed to get the froth out of the market. It needed to get the speculation out of the name, and it did that. And you know what? Last night kind of felt really bad for like 20 minutes. I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, it is going to be a tech bloodbath tomorrow with Microsoft down. This is obviously before AMD reported and we started seeing the chips bounce, but it was ugliness across the board. And, it felt really bad. And now you come in and you're like looking back, and always in hindsight, you can look back at these things, but was that the little washout? Was that the washout?
Dennis, this changes the narrative quite a bit. And and I'm just, presenting this, all the rips have been sold as of late in these earnings reports. I don't know if that's going to be the same today, but I'm just looking, and I don't know about the low for the year, or the high for the year and everything, but I mean, I don't like moves like this. I'd rather it seen us, hang in around under 5,500 for 2 or 3 weeks. This could just be the big blowout. We could clear this quad top. That has not been the narrative of this earnings season so far. The narrative has been to sell a lot of rips and things come in. So who knows? Narratives always change. I'm just going to do quick technicals on these because it is a tough bird to do. I'm going to do the AMD because I'll just give you the pre-market high. And I don't know if that last print was some crazy 8 p.m. prints, but the pre-market high, I'm going to give it 152.58. There is no 3 highs in the same area until 157. But if your next target after, if it takes out the pre-market high, that'd be 153.68. Nvidia sets up much better technically because you have your close from Monday at 111.59. You have yesterday's high at 111.99. So if this thing's just going to rip, take back half of this move, go to 120 in a heartbeat, you're going to take out yesterday's high pretty quickly. Absolutely no idea
need to do anything in a heartbeat. We're always getting extreme and excited on this show. It doesn't need to do anything in a heartbeat. It's got some work to do. There's still obviously a lot of people who are underwater in the stock for the last month and a half. You got bag holder central. So it's not like things just need to go straight back up. It's going 100 to 110. I had a 10% rally from the low last night. Why in the hell is it doing another 10%, Joel? Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying we're going straight back to 120. What I'm saying is the $100 level now is not only a big psychological level, it's a technical level here now too. And the low for your little immediate future, I think, is in. Now, I'm not saying you need to chase it. Maybe we back and fill a little bit. Maybe we get a shot here at 105 and we take that shot. Maybe we shouldn't be buying it at 110.63 when it just rallied 10% in an overnight session on no news. They didn't report any news, Nvidia. So I think we need to just, cool our sails a little bit, saying, and I know you were just saying you're being facetious, big word for me. I'm a trader, not a linguist here.
Oh yeah, I'm an English major too.
But 110 to 120 is going to be really tough for it to just blow through all that too. But I think you caught some people on the wrong side. How do I know that you caught some people on the wrong side? I was caught on the wrong side of a lot of things last night because when the Microsoft and everything happened, I'm like, I need to get short tech. I'm like, this is going to be a tech bloodbath. And then AMD started turning. I was like, well, we were weak. Qs were still down. Then the Microsoft guidance, you're like, holy crap. This is not going to be a tech wreck. It's going to be a tech rally. And then you're scrambling, trying to get out. And I'm very good at damage control. Like, this is like the reason I've been successful trading for 25 years isn't that I make great calls. It's that I'm great at minimizing damage. And I'll tell you, folks, last night, I was definitely caught on the wrong side in some of these reversals, wicked reversals. But I'm working my way out. But I can guarantee you there's a lot of people who probably aren't as good at damage control as I am. There's a lot of traders, short-term traders, who are caught right now, caught on the wrong side, and they're like, well, it's got to pull back. It's not. This is earnings weren't that great. This has got to pull back, and they're staying with their shorts, and that's how rallies start. It doesn't start with the long-term investor. It starts with the short-term trader getting caught, and then the swing trader starting to scramble, and they're trying to move and get to the other side. And then you have a rally going, and then the long-term investor says, did I miss the bottom? And they start coming in too. So it's like the snow. That's how markets turn. And we were in an ugly period for the last 3 to 4 weeks here in the Qs, at least. IWM is a completely different story. We know it's been, always these rotations that we've been talking about. But what I think we did last night is we caught a lot of day traders on the wrong side. And that's, a little bit of a scramble job. And I mean, by day traders, I mean professional traders, not so much day traders. You caught a lot of professional traders on the wrong side. Those professional traders are big traders too. Don't kid yourself. Like, you think, oh, what's Joe day trader over at T3 or Bright Trading, all those? There's big traders in there. I think you caught a few of them on the wrong side.
Yeah, thousands of
perspective. You want perspective before HFT. Joel, remember when we were back in our Bright Trading days, and Bright doesn't do that kind of volume anymore. Bright Trading, prop shop Bright Trading used to do 2% of the volume in the New York Stock Exchange every day. You get professional firms that are on the wrong side. These are big firms that trade big volume. Now, Bright isn't like that big anymore, but there's still some big traders in there. I'm not saying it's Bright traders. I'm just saying professional traders are likely caught on the wrong side. And I know you want to move on, AB, but I'm trying to teach something here too.
Yep, go ahead.
Is that rallies start not because, oh my gosh, it's the investor coming in buying the dip. Rallies start when professional traders get caught on the short side. That's how they start.
Real quick, we did have ADP numbers come out this morning a few minutes ago. Lighter than expected. ADP non-farm employment came in for July, 122,000 jobs versus the 147,000 payroll estimate. So slightly light there, which is a good segue into just mentioning that there is the FOMC decision today. Of course, it's pretty, according to the CME Watch tool, 97% chance that the interest rates remain the same for this month. And then we see that cut coming on September 18th, although there is a 3.1% chance that they cut by 25 basis points here. So it's kind of, the Jeff Daniels Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance. Probably not likely, but again, there is a chance. And so we'll be watching that at 2 p.m. It'll be more about when Powell takes the stage at the podium at 2:30 and gives his commentary, because people will be analyzing his tone.
The rally continues. I just want to get quick price action here. The rally is continuing here off those ADP numbers. We have now exceeded Monday's high here. It's just a creeper of a rally. There's nothing in here. There's next daily high doesn't come in until way up at 55.85. That's a daily high. We've already had, I mean, we're already 100 points off that low that you saw around 415, 430. So they're liking ADP. We haven't even talked about the Fed. I mean, that of course, that Fed decision coming today. I mean, it's looking like September's 110% that they're going to cut. But right now, I mean, they're liking everything in this market here.
Yeah, and I think it helps too that we did end up getting a little bit of a balance. I mean, had we been just completely red after the day, what was last Wednesday after Mike or not Microsoft, after Google and Tesla reported, and we had that 3% down day on the Qs, 2% down day on the SPY. Had we just been in a straight line down from there, that maybe that would put some extra pressure on the Fed to kind of ease some fears in the markets, even though I know that's not what their chief concern is the stock market. But had the market sold off 10%, 15% in like 2 weeks, then maybe they'd be a little bit more worried and talking about cutting. But because we bounced a little bit here, I think now Powell will have the confidence to wait another. The problem is there's like a couple month gap here before we talk about that rate cut coming in September. So really a lot can happen in those 2 months from from all of August and halfway through September to when they are going to be talking about cutting rates next time. Also, before we move back to earnings, we did get kind of some breaking news here while we were on the show. Boeing announced a new CEO. They've been in their search after Dave Calhoun announced he was stepping down. Let me get the name here. I don't want to mess it up. Kelly Ortberg, a female leading Boeing. No, I'm just kidding. It actually is a man named Kelly, a boy named Sue, a man named Kelly coming in and leading Boeing here. The stock popped on the announcement. Looks like we got up to 194 and then came back down. Boeing did also report this morning EPS, a loss of $2.90, missed by 89 cents there. Revenue came in at 16.8 billion, missed by 480 million. But again, the stock is in the green after announcing the CEO change.
Yeah, and earnings were an epic disaster here. Brutal earnings. They came out with the CEO change to, obviously, they figured that would help the stock. So they're going to announce it at the same time, and they did. So algos hit it initially and like, oh my gosh, the CEO change. We need that CEO gone. So we knew, and again, CEO is gone, but I mean, that we got one, So they announced the new CEO coming in, and, that's why the stock is trading higher. Bottom line is Boeing for the last couple of months has been going up despite bad news. We have talked about this on the show. When stocks start going up on bad news, they're washed out. Boeing has been washed out for a while here. It's why if they say anything good, the stock go up. I mean, hell, they said everything bad this quarter and the stock's going up. I don't know if I'm becoming up chasing it up $5 on those earnings because they're an epic disaster, but I can't argue with the chart. It kind of looks, like you've been holding up.
Trying to break out that 190.
Action.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to go down.
Nope. And you've been in the trading range, I would say 170 to 190, but even moving from the month of July, 180, 190, gave all those chances to buy 180. Now you got over 190, 194.50 is your pre-market high. I'm not gonna step out there and say that high for the day is in. What I'd like to see more from a technical is you had all those highs in that 190 area. I like to see us build a base at that 190 area, even above it, 190, 150, 192, 190, 90, something like that. Put in a series of lows. Make sure people are willing to make the same commitment at 190 that they were at 180. And there was a big commitment there. Let's see if you can move up, and nice pop here in the pre-market, and Boeing exceeding the top of that trading range. The top of the trading range is really held since early April for Boeing.
Can we do Starbucks too? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick on Boeing. Last time I flew, I got on the flight and I was like, and most of the time the planes are all like exactly the same, but this was like a smaller plane because I was just flying from Detroit to Milwaukee, which is a quick like 45-minute flight over the lake. And it was a smaller plane, but it was like brand new. And I was like, oh my God, this plane is nice. And like the buttons were new, everything was. And I looked at it and it was an Airbus. And I was like, oh man, it's like my first time flying on an Airbus in a while. But Dennis, I was going to ask, did you get my boy named Sue reference? I assume Joel.
Yes. Johnny Cash.
Okay, I didn't know if Johnny.
I
Nice,
know
man.
those old
AB going
songs.
digging out the
Johnny Cash.
holy mackerel. AB,
And he was the toughest boy ever in that song.
I didn't know if Johnny Cash got any love up there in Canada.
Oh yeah, we like Johnny.
right,
I'm a fan of the older music. I hate all new music. Like my wife will let you know. Anything that's made in like the 2000s, I don't listen to anything. I listen to 70s, 80s, and 90s. I'd even go back to 60s. Anything made in the 21st century, in my opinion, is junk. I know my kids will say because they're Swifties and they're blaring the Taylor Swift all over the place. And you know you're like in a Swiftie world. Here's a funny tangent. I was we were at like a food stand, like getting burgers and fries out of one of those fry trucks, Joel. And I'm hearing this Taylor Swift music just blaring. And then somebody pulls up in their like Harley Davidson biker guy blaring Taylor Swift music out of the thing.
God.
And I'm like, this is the world we live in here right there. And he gets off and he looks like the toughest guy you've ever seen in your life. And then he shuts it off and the Taylor Swift music stops. Literally the toughest guy on the Harley blaring the Taylor Swift. What a world we're in. My kids loved it though. They're all Swifties. I mean, that's the world we're in now.
Even with Taylor Swift, if you go back to her older music, I think it's better. But specifically with the country music, like I love a lot of the older country, kind of Willie Nelson, like outlaw country, and the newer country stuff I don't like as, but there's a few good artists. But all right, let's move to
you guys. You don't blame me for this tangent.
No,
they're bad.
Hey,
Yasso Flights says stocks.
Starbucks.
We're here about stocks.
Yeah, I could take a break or whatever when you Swifties get done here. But yeah, let's go to Starbucks.
Starbucks,
Yeah.
which Starbucks reported earnings as well. Last night, EPS came in at $1.93, which was in line with estimates. Sales came in at $9.11 billion. Missed the estimate there. 9.24 was what analysts.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares? Because the bar was.
Is there a trade just to flat out, and I mean flat out, just short everything with a high bar, buy everything with a low bar, and make money? It is this earnings season because this was like the no-brainer of no-brainers. I said Starbucks the same thing. I actually did buy it right at 4 o'clock to take it into the report. I flipped it out after because I flip out quick. But anyways, it's just the bar. It's all about the bar. And we talked on this show for years about the bar. But the AMD bar, if that AMD chart was up at 180, the stock would be down at 170. But because the stock was down at 138 and lost 30% in a week and a half, the stock was up 10 points on it. It is all about the bar, folks. The numbers don't matter as much as the bar. It's all about the bar. Starbucks bar low, Boeing bar low, AMD bar low. The stocks are up. Oh, we love the reports. There was nothing really to love in that Starbucks report, but it was good enough.
Okay, back to the Starbucks here. You did get the pop over $80. It was a big pop, big surge there. Actually, that high was 80.80. But I'm just going to go to the dailies here because we backed off there. Not too far away. 79.38 was your high back on July 19th, and then you can see it's kind of open up over 80. The only area of a double top comes in, if you're looking for more, 81.75 was a double top from June 17th and June 18th here for Starbucks. So low bar, high bar, do that, and then go to the cigar bar.
All right. Well, we're going to bring our guests on here in 2 minutes. Before we do that, we've got time for a couple more earnings reports. Let's go to Pinterest. We have not talked pins yet, which, I mean, I don't know. Pins, I feel like it's just, if I'm buying any stock in this space, it's not going to be Pinterest. But let's go ahead and see what the numbers were for Pinterest. EPS came in at 29 cents, beat by 1 cent there. Revenue at $853.68 million, beat by $5.5 million there. The outlook falls short despite earnings beat. Weak guidance, and we know what stocks that Pinterest like to move, anything in the social media space. So you take a look at Meta, you take a look at Snapchat, all moved on that report from Pinterest yesterday. And I mean, like, there was just wicked reversals across the board because
it was wicked reversals everywhere. And look at this Pinterest. This one under $30, folks.
29.02.
This got down to $29 last night. the crazy moves. Like there's just, when those algos get all antsy in their pantsy, they sell. There's no bids. They're selling. Just get out. I gotta just get out. I just gotta sell. And then they're like, oh wait, maybe I sold too low. Holy, under 29 or down to $29. And then the reversals we've been talking about 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. I mean, now you're talking about it's not even that bad. And the report itself wasn't that great. But I mean, wow, they really got overdone last night. Again, making me feel like that a short-term bottom was actually put in last night after hours. It makes me feel like a short-term bottom is in here. And it makes me want to buy any dips that we get here right now. And part of the reason is it just caught too. I got caught it last night too. You can clearly see this market is, obviously, and again, you're seeing leaking in the IWM here. So you're seeing that same rotation where it's coming into tech and it's going to start coming out of other things. I know Spinner, and I was talking about it earlier, healthcare. I mean, that's not going to be the day for Humana. We'll talk it in a second here too. But there's definitely a risk on sentiment here and a risk on into tech. And it was not like that at 4 o'clock last night. It was exact opposite.
Yeah, even if you're just looking at the overall market yesterday, I mean, the Qs opened slightly higher, traded down at one point more than 2% lower from where it opened at. But then if you bought around 1 p.m., from 1 p.m. to close, it was up about 1%. So there was reversal even yesterday in the overall tech market because it certainly looked ugly for a while. Nvidia got down, it was trading down like 6-7%. Dennis, your Tesla was down like 5%, or I'm sorry, like 4% at one point. So the market did not look great for a while yesterday. But then if you waited till the afternoon, I feel like that just happens so often where when the market's down, then we hit this spot in the afternoon and people start looking at the landscape and they're like, things aren't that bad out there. And they start buying a little bit more and things come back a little bit. So anyone who was kind of coming in yesterday afternoon and buying that dip before these earnings got in at a good level, at least for today. Not going to say that's going to last throughout the week. But it was interesting price action yesterday nonetheless.
All right, let's go to our guest has arrived early, been waiting patiently.
Yeah.
Why don't we go to him right now?
Sure.
All right, let's go ahead and bring on Hicham Chahine, the CEO of Ninjas in Pajamas, a recent IPO ticker NIPG. Without further ado, let's give Hicham our special pre-market prep. Welcome.
I'm Chahine, a co-founder of NIP Group. Ninjas in Pajamas is the name of that stock. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
We're doing well. As you can tell, we're really excited about the markets today, but wow, quite a week for you. First of all, you IPO on Friday, ring the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Also, with the Olympics going on, we have the news that there's going to be Esports Olympics, I believe, in 2025. And you have the Esports World Cup going on right now. What a week for you. Give us a recap of it.
It's been the recap might be a little bit hard, right? Because when you're IPOing and in the listing heat, and also with everything you're highlighting, there's a lot of things happening. So you tend to just go with the flow at these points, autopilot a little bit. I feel today is the day where I'm back to some sort of normality since I'm back home. But obviously for the industry, it's extremely exciting. For our company, it's also a new chapter, a new journey that we're embarking on. And it's great to have the Olympics coming in terms of the esports. The Asian Games happened this year to drive sort of that momentum that we've built our company up around, right?
Okay, so tell us about your company and how this IPO ushers in a new strategy for public esports companies.
I think when we look at the esports landscape, you've had an industry which sort of has been niched in terms of, if you look at the landscape, our competitors fragmented. I think that what we felt with our IPO and taking the company public is we've created a global giant in terms of what is not seen in terms of verticals, diversifications, also scale of footprints and operations from Europe to China to the Middle East to South America. So I would say that looking at our company and how it sits in terms of where the space is going, it's something that hasn't really been seen before. We're plowing sort of uncharted waters. We've created something that is no longer, in terms of strategy, a niche esports play. It spans from esports to talent management to event production, but everything is sort of born out of esports. The audience is the same, the score is the same, the skills and knowledge and know-how around it is the same, but we sort of utilize building other verticals, which sort of in an esports context is a significantly more diversified business than what is usually seen and has been seen before.
I mean, so when talking about gaming, I know that right now a lot of a lot of people are watching streamers that stream maybe individually on Twitch or wherever they're streaming. Do you expect like more people to kind of go from doing that to then watching live esports actual competitions?
I think that you have seen that trend going on for a long period of time, right? I joined NIP and came into esports about 8 years ago. The viewership and audience numbers were vastly smaller, right? Sub 100 million in audience size. Last year, we surpassed 600 million in industry audience size of audience that actually dedicated to watch esports, right? I think what you're seeing now is the generation, which is that millennial and others, they're sort of growing up into being digitally native, right? If you look at NIP as a brand, the brand was founded 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we had different fans. What you're starting to see in the industry, which is extremely exciting, is you're seeing those fans of the 2000s now show up to NIP games or events, and they bring their kids, right? So the audience size is growing, the industry size is growing. The younger demographic tends to be interested in what happens in the digital space. Esports and gaming is a big part of that, and they're sort of growing up digitally native. And I do not foresee or think that that trend is stopping anytime soon. So the audience size will continue to grow, and the industry at that is on a huge trend momentum for the future.
When you're, a new company, right, IPOing, there's always going to be competitors. Talk about your competitors, barrier to entry, and also add to that, what are your different revenue streams? Because we all know that's what's important, is building that revenue and the earnings.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that on our end, when we look at the peer space, we really do not have any peer. What we've created NIP is it is a gaming entertainment company in its true sense that it operates different verticals. So when you would look at the peer, you would probably look at the pillars in the business. So you would say the esports side of the business on PC console has a set of peers. There's other peers on the mobile side when it comes to esports. There's a different set of peer for talent management, which is sort of an IMG with 35,000 digital creators. That has its peer. Events production business has its own peer. So in terms of the esports landscape and esports place, we really do not have any comparables, but you can aggregate comparables to the different verticals of the business is what I would say. If you look at NIP as a business, about 30% or so of the revenue comes out of where we're born out of, which is esports, and that is competing in video games. And the revenue streams there are very similar to what you find in traditional sports. So we own league franchises and league slots. Those generate league revenue shares as a solid bottom. Then you have media rights and sponsorships. You have something in esports and gaming, which is heavily underutilized, vastly growing, what people are excited about in digital itemizations. So utilizing digital IP to generate revenues for stickers in games, skins in gaming, and so on. And then you have other traditional streams like physical merchandise and apparels, event, ticketing. If you look at the talent management agency, that is a traditional talent management business, but it's made in a digital landscape and not physical. And events production is events production, right? You serve not only the arenas that we have where we play our home games, but we put on a large amounts of third-party events for publishers like Tencent, for government entities and other things, and producing traditional events. So the business is extremely well diversified, both in what type of revenues it derives from the wide gaming audience, but also it is extremely geographically diversified in terms of its spanning from east to west.
Let's talk about your audience here and the demographics of your audience, along with the current digital first global audience of 3.4 billion gamers. Where do you expect that to grow to?
I think expectations of growth is difficult in terms of where we're ending up, right? We all know it's growing. We all know it's going to continue to grow. It's an industry in its infancy. The digitalization trend is ongoing and is barely in its starting foot. So I can't predict where it's going from 600 million or the 3.4 billion gamers demographic. What I do know is a large part of the world's population will be engaged in video games. Some of them will also convert into watching esports, but the gaming industry is already existing. It is already massive. Combined, it's already exceeding music and film as an industry, which when we set out on our company journey and mission, we very quickly realized that esports is all nice and fun. People look at it and it is extremely entertaining and engaging, but we wanted to take our business out of just esports to capture the whole gaming audience market size and not just keep it contained to the subcategory of gamers which consume esports content.
Okay, and Dennis, I think you're on mute there.
Yeah, I thought Aaron was going. We get all crossed up here in the background, Hicham. I just want to ask, like, the name is so unique, like ninjas in pajamas. It's so much fun. Where did that come from? Because that's an awesome name.
Yeah. We are like in that age demographic that will know that. Most of the fans, which are like younger coming in, won't know that. Do you guys remember the cartoon Bananas in Pajamas back in the days?
Joel, remember? Joel.
I
You
don't,
don't remember that one?
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
So there used to be this like 98, 99, when I grew up, there used to be this like super hyped cartoon, which was like all over the world. And it was two bananas wearing like these pajamas thing. And it used to go, it was a cartoon, a kid's cartoon that went on.
Fun.
The name, the guys that put together and founded the brand in 2000, they decided that it was a great idea to take that name and just change bananas to ninjas and then go on and compete at a world championship. So that's actually the basic story on how it came to life. And it happened to so be that they went on and won the world championship and were the most dominant team, which sort of had this brand name with this ridiculous background become extremely hilarious to people. And I think that that's probably a big reason to why the audience kind of rallied up around it, right?
Awesome.
Okay.
AB, you had one more. AB.
Well, so I was just wondering too. I mean, we saw during COVID a huge jump in esport interest, viewership, etc. Have those trends like slowed down since COVID? Have they started normalizing back? Because I think you saw like a consistent growth year over year in esport viewership leading up to COVID, and then all of a sudden a huge spike. But a lot of times when that happens, then it kind of starts to normalize from there. How's that trend been since COVID?
I think on the esports side, COVID was an extreme booster, right? When it was ongoing, it was a booster. And also following, you've seen it stabilize or normalize on a significantly higher level. Because we need to remember during COVID, everything that was sport shut down. A lot of content shut down. But esports sort of were able to go back to the roots and migrated into an online digital context. Now, that was a huge booster for the industry in the sense that people that hadn't consumed content before were now suddenly consumed content. And that saw a significant boost and influx. Now, the question we had also when the world started opening up over COVID, the big question was how sticky was it? So you have a huge spike in Hoops boost. It did come down, but it did not come down a lot. It stabilized on a higher level, which was significantly higher than what we entered COVID with, which is which is great in the sense because you saw industries which returned back to pre-normal. Esports and gaming in itself normalized on a significantly higher level because people discovered it.
All right, Hicham Chahine. He's the co-CEO of NIPG. Yes, that's Ninja in Pajamas Group, joining us from Abu Dhabi. I think you're our first guest from Abu Dhabi. Thanks for joining us. We'll keep an eye on this volatile stock. A great interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All righty, guys. We have about 15 minutes left. Thank you to Hicham Chahine for joining us on Benzinga's pre-market prep this morning. Dennis, where do you want to go next? Looks like
let's go into healthcare for a second because Humana, is having a disaster of a day here. They did report here, and it's a bad day for them to report. Why do I say that? Because this is a risk-on tech day, and healthcare is defensive. So without even seeing the report, I haven't even looked at the report, I would assume that they would have to blow it away. One, the bar was high, the stock ran into it. But two, this is just not the day for them. If the tech was wrecked, it'd be like, oh, we need something defensive. People are moving out of defensive names right now and buying tech this morning. So I'm not surprised now that Humana is showing some weakness.
Yeah, so Humana reported EPS of for, let's see,
696 versus 585, which is a nice beat. 29.38 billion versus 28.51 billion. Nice beat on the top, beat on the bottom. The guidance looks a little bit iffy here.
Well, the guidance range, that's what I was looking at first.
A lot iffy.
Well, it's just the range is huge from 1281 to 1821. So about a $5.50 range there versus the $16 to 2031 estimate. So the guidance, the EPS guidance was well below what analysts were looking for. And again, a wide range there. Humana taking a nice little haircut this morning, trading down about $32 down to 372. If we zoom out a little bit, so we're on the 5-minute chart here, you can see dropped all the way down in the 360s, got bought back up a little. But then if we go out to like a daily chart here, I mean, this whole industry now, I mean, Humana's gone from 570 down to 300. You go to UNH. UNH has also, actually, UNH got all the way back. I didn't even see that UNH got back up to its all-time highs in the past few days, but it was trading down too. So, I mean, for a while, these whole healthcare stocks, insurance stocks were out of favor, have now started coming back a little bit. But Humana, I'm surprised. Okay, yeah, United is moving off that Humana report down about 2.2% this morning as well. So, either way, like you said,
there's a pile of these, so keep an eye on all of them. Might be weak here off the Humana report. Technicals, Joel, I mean, this is a tricky one because you had a stock going out at its 4-month high at 404, and then boom, we get back basically half of the gain from the recent run here from 3 months ago. Thoughts technically here?
I can try to give you some
Joel's gone. I'm not looking at the screen. Joel snuck away here again. Watch it, Joel. He's like Pokeroo. He's here. He's not. Remember Pokeroo? You wouldn't remember that. Yeah, you're not going to remember that at all. AP will do the technicals. He can do these technical breakdowns here.
Yeah. So here, let's go to a 5-minute chart first. We'll see the pre-market action. We did get down to 363. You can see almost tested this low back from earlier in July on the 5th. But then we did get bought back up there. If I was going to go long and try to buy the dip on Humana, I would want to at least get above where you had these multiple bottoms right here at 380. And then once you're there, at least you could lean on that for some support. But until then, I mean, this could potentially close that gap back down to around 360. So 373 kind of right here in no man's land. I'm not touching it here. If it gets down here, I'll take a stab at it. If it gets back above that 380, I'd consider taking a stab at it.
I gotta say, this S&P is just ripping, and it's not broad-based, folks. There's a lot of stocks not participating here. Some participating, but the banks are starting to lag. Consumer staples have all gone red here now. Healthcare to this point, with Humana not helping, but a lot of the other drug stocks down. This is a risk-on day all of a sudden, and the risk-off stocks are down. So don't expect your stock to just necessarily go up when you see the S&P. Again, IWM is only a 0.29% right now. It looks like looking like it wants to go red. So, I mean, you're going to see wicked rotation here today, too. So not only wicked reversals last night, but now wicked rotation. Couple all that in there too. It's going to be a very interesting trading day, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the S&P 500 trading higher by more than 1% pre-market on a day where one of the biggest holdings, Microsoft, is still down. Granted, not as much as it was down last night. I mean, Microsoft just keeps coming back. Now up to almost $416 here. So this should be a fun day, Dennis, just in terms of seeing where the follow-through is.
Depends which side you're on.
Does AMD continue to move higher after this report? Or are we going to see that pullback like we've seen after some other good reports? I mean, you go back to last week and how GM got treated after its solid report, was trading up all day pre-market, and then the market opened, and all of a sudden they just hammered it. So AMD will be one I'm watching today. Obviously, Microsoft should be interesting price action as well. We do have that Fed decision coming out at 2 p.m. Eastern, followed by Powell's press conference at 2:30. And then I believe let's see what else we've got on the calendar this week for earnings reports, because we should have some more big ones. I'll go ahead and pull that up here from Benzinga. You can find that on our Twitter here. So let's see. We have Meta today. Meta, ARM, Qualcomm. Wow, that's a big day today after the close as well. Carvana too. The market's expecting like a 20% move in Carvana, which has been just a very volatile stock throughout. I mean, we went from what, $5 like a year and a half ago back up to 100. Lam Research also in the chip space, LRCX, which I think Lam is getting ready for a split as well at some point here soon. And then tomorrow before the open, we will have Moderna, we'll have Crocs, we'll have ConocoPhillips, Wayfair, Canada Goose. So not as many that we care about like tomorrow morning. I mean, Moderna, Crocs, those will be big, ConocoPhillips. But then tomorrow after the close, some more big boys, Amazon, Apple, Coinbase, DraftKings. So if you just added up these companies that are reporting the afternoons by market cap, this is by far the biggest week, because obviously you have Apple, Microsoft. Those two alone are over a $6 trillion market cap together. Then you throw in Amazon, AMD, Meta in there as well, and you're probably looking at like 10 trillion. Oh, I'm not showing the calendar. Dennis, you got to tell me that. I thought we were showing the calendar.
I have you in the. I have all my stock charts. I have the show in the background here, so I'm just listening.
I thought we had a calendar up this whole time. I'm sorry, chat. So again, this afternoon,
that looks better.
This afternoon we have Meta, Qualcomm, ARM, Carvana, Lam Research. Tomorrow, Moderna, Crocs. So we'll have a lot to talk about the next couple of days.
Yeah, and then Amazon and Apple and Thursday night. So what a week it's going to be here. Earnings going to be crazy, and the rotation is going to be crazy here today too. So it is 100% going to be about rotation. I think if you're non-tech, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a non-tech stock that they start to show weakness after the open. So I'm actually looking to sell non-tech if it opens up too much, and looking to buy tech if it opens, too weak. It looks like a tech day. Again, things can reverse. So we saw wicked reversals last night. They can reverse here again. But I mean, it's been a long time since you've seen the S&P rally over 110 handles from the after hours low. And that's what we're looking at here right now. Up 110 handles from where we were at 402 last night when Microsoft disappointed. So crazy reversals. If I'm looking at imbalances, they don't even know. Institutional traders aren't even out there really, because there's not much in that land here either, because there's so much uncertainty here on today. Like sometimes you get a day where you come in and you're like, oh, I can feel what this is going to be. But because it was a tech wreck to this tech, miraculous recovery and now tech rip all overnight, it's like, well, is there going to be another dip? I mean, we just rallied 110 S&P handles basically in a straight line. Is it going to be a pullback here? Is it going to continue? Is tech going to continue? Is Nvidia going to continue, which is up 10% from its lows last night? So many questions to be answered here. But what I will say is this caught a few traders maybe leaning, a little bit too much to the short side in tech, and that's why we're really ripping here today. Again, to your point, lots of earnings going to report tonight. Coming up here, Meta's going to be interesting. And Meta, bring up the chart of that one there, AB, because it got killed on the Pinterest report. Meta was down over $20 last night. It has rallied all of it back. It is now up 4. Incredible bounces, what we saw last night, from these lows around 4 o'clock. If you were buying anything at 4 o'clock, you're pretty happy right now.
Yeah, so this is going back yesterday. You can see here. Let me zoom in.
What's the low? What was the low last night? There it is, right there.
We're looking at a 5-minute chart. It got to 452.
Oh, that's all. Oh, so it's only down. I thought it got
Oh,
lower
wait, no,
than
no,
that.
no. Sorry, 441.
441, down 22 points last night, and now it's up 4 points. So a 26-point pop in Meta too. These are stocks that didn't report, folks. These are stocks that just are playing off pure sympathy. And Meta, it's so impressive because Pinterest did report and they did kill Meta on the report. And now they've taken this all the way back to the green. So if you're playing sympathy moves in short and tech last night, man, you were scrambling for cover all night and all morning.
Just some other pre-market movers. Let's see. I'm looking. We have Constellation Energy, ticker CEG, which is one that Kramer. I just heard Kramer talking about this one the other day. I'm not in it or anything whatsoever, but it's trading up 12.8%.
You've got a headline here. I can see if I can go
declares
grab
dividend.
No,
no,
that is not the headline. So CEG power plant payouts on the biggest U.S. grid rose to a record. This broke just after the close last night, and VST and CEG are the direct beneficiaries here. So if you bring up Vistra, Vistra's up 16% now on this headline, VST. CEG obviously following suit, similar businesses. Stocks move together. I pair trade these two together, so I should know. Big moves here. VST, CEG also moving up. Public services, PEG, smaller move on here. But the two that actually was breaking from Bloomberg, the two that were mentioned in the Bloomberg article were VST and CEG last night. And both these stocks are having incredible bounce backs here because these two stocks were sitting, on the lows here too. So nice snapback rallies here too. It's a bounce back day for a lot of Momo players. These two stocks were very Momo in the first half of the year. They've been very no-no in the last 2 months, while they're bouncing back here big time this morning.
There you go. Yeah, again, shout out Kramer was talking about Constellation Energy just the other day. And then on the downside this morning, we did talk about, Humana, Pinterest, which are trading lower. Any other big pre-market losers? Not particularly that I'm seeing that are catching my eye. AutoZone is trading down about 10%. I don't know if AutoZone reported earnings. Let's see.
I don't have AutoZone down at all.
Oh.
This is just FINRA 8 o'clock bad prints or whatever. That's actually, I don't know what that is. I see a 28.27 odd lot on FINRA. I have no idea what that is. It's not trading down though. So that's a bad part about filtering by, and you get these FINRA oddball tapes that are outside the market and they mess it up. So yeah, AutoZone, AutoNation did report last night, and AutoNation actually is not really moving at all on the report. So unless it didn't report yet, but it's 180. It was due to report here. Maybe it's not out yet because it's not moving.
Oh yeah.
Just looking through, if you want to look at some other stocks that reported here that are really moving here, JCI getting a big rip. Johnson Controls, it's up 9%. Just, I'm just grabbing the big movers here from the earnings reports. JCI did report. They must have really blew it away. I didn't look at the report, but I saw the stock ripping. Yeah, JCI $1.14 versus $1.08. Missed on the bottom line, or top line, 7.23 versus 7.33 billion. The guidance is slight raise. I mean, this is where we're actually it's pretty good raise. 123 to 126 versus 108. So it's a nice raise on the Q4 guidance. This market, man, it's to give you a little raise. They really pop the stocks.
And you need to. I mean, it's not enough to just beat on EPS and revenue if your guidance, if your outlook isn't that strong, then I feel like you're still getting hit here. And not the type of market where like any positive news off an earnings will move the stock. Because, we saw Microsoft beat on both EPS and sales or revenue estimates last night, but it didn't start moving higher until they started giving more color about what was going well with the business. What about just for an earnings preview here? Because again, this afternoon we will have Meta, we will have Qualcomm, we will have ARM. Do you think these the chip stocks will go to Qualcomm and ARM, that because we have gotten pulled back here a little bit? Do you think this lower bar makes it more likely we'll get a little pop after the earnings tonight?
Yes. Qualcomm has come down substantially. I own Qualcomm in the long-term account, $230 down to $166. These aren't just corrections. These were full-on bear markets for these stocks here in the last month and a half. So I think we've washed out. I think we washed out last night as well on obviously the Microsoft 4 o'clock print where they sold every tech stock as hard as they could. I think we had a little mini washout there, and I do think we're due for a bounce on a lot of these names. So now the bar is lower for these names. ARM Holdings come down substantially too. I mean, 2 weeks ago, this was $187, came down $132, got down to $129 in the regular session. Bouncing big time here with the Nvidia bounce. We know this moves with Nvidia. We know this moves SMCI as well. I'm still long SMCI in the long-term portfolio that I rebought recently. I do think it lowered the bar a little bit here. I do think there's some traders who are still caught here too. So it would not surprise me if these stocks actually could continue some of these.
Wow, look at ASML too. ASML trading up
wicked bounces.
7.5% this morning. $66 for ASML. This is saying on Benzinga Pro, there's a Biden administration's new rule on foreign chip equipment exports to China, which could exempt Japan, the Netherlands, and South Korea. So either way, you got that in confluence with, of course, AMD's earnings report going to help move ASML a little bit higher. Again, ARM also trading up about 6% this morning. You've got Qualcomm set to report. You've got Meta, which we've seen already volatile ahead of its earnings. Then Meta will report again this afternoon. So we got a lot more volatility ahead of us, I think, Dennis.
Oh, for sure. There's going to be chop, and I think you'll get an opportunity, but I do think dips are going to get bought on some of these stocks here now because, one, like I said, I think some traders caught on the wrong side, but two, investors like, did I miss the bottom? You know, they've been hungry to get in these things. They're looking at videos, $100 last night. Why didn't I buy it at $100? 110. So the thing comes down to 108, 109, 107. Those buyers like, okay, good enough. I'm going to get in here now. Now, is this, you know, I don't know. I have a crystal ball to say where we are a month from now. I just think short term that we washed out. So you got a little lift in here. We're getting a little bit of a lift, but expect a lot of chop.
All right, well, that brings us to 9 a.m. Thank you to everyone who tuned in to Pre-Market Prep today. Thank you to our special guest, Chahine, who again joined us after a recent IPO. Let me check who we got coming on tomorrow. And then again, guys, 2 p.m., Fed releases. Do you think there's a chance, Dennis? You think there's a chance we get that cut?
No, not going tomorrow. No chance.
Oh, wait, is it tomorrow?
Or today. Sorry, today. No chance today.
Tomorrow, it'll be Mr. Mark Chaikin joining us at 8:15 a.m. Eastern. It'll be good to have Mark on. He'll walk us through some of these big tech earnings that we've seen this week. We'll get Mark's thoughts. Everyone out there, stay green. Have a great day trading. We will see you guys tomorrow morning. Dennis, any final thoughts?
Just expect the chop. What it's going to say, it's not going to be smooth sailing. We've had a wicked reversals. It's going to be more intraday wicked reversals. It'll be like, oh my gosh, I just chased and it's fallen. You know, now I'm down 3 points in Nvidia. What am I going to do? And then it bounces back. And I think you're going to have some crazy chop today. So play the chop.
There we go. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Live trading starting up right after this.